All right, we just spun the chaotropic salt solution through the spin column. The liquid's now down in the bottom, and the DNA is still adhered to or bound to the column, the silica gel in the column. So I'm going to, what I should point out now is, for most DNA extraction protocols, you would do 1 or 2 more wash steps, usually involving the use of some ethanol in a buffer solution. For the purposes of simplicity and brevity for this lab, we're skipping over that. But if we did do it, what we would get is pure DNA at the end. For now, we're just going to move ahead. So the next thing we're going to want to do is get the DNA. We've probably washed most of the membrane and protein off. The DNA is still adhered to the spin column. And next we want to get the DNA off the spin column and into a solution of buffer, which we'll call elution buffer. Usually that's a tris-based buffer. And then that is the DNA that we could then work with doing something like PCR or DNA sequencing or any other number of what are called downstream applications, the next thing that you want to do with your DNA. So I'm going to take the spin column out of the column, and I'm done with this now, so I'm going to discard it. And I'm going to take a new tube, and that tube is going to get a label, and I'm going to call this EC, because this is going to be my E. coli DNA. And if this was my research project, I'd also put my name or my initials on there, and I'd put the date and any other relevant information, because this tube will probably be in your freezer for some time as you do future work with this sample. We'll take the spin column, which has the DNA on it, and we'll put it in a new Eppendorf tube, okay? And then we'll open the lid of the spin column, and we're going to apply 30 microliters of elution buffer, smaller volume. Take the P100 to do that. I'm setting it to 30. I'm going to load the appropriate smaller tip for that pipetter, okay? And then I'm going to take my elution buffer, which I have sitting here labeled EB. I'm going to open that up, down to the first stop. Make sure the tip is below the liquid line, but not pressed up against the bottom of the tube, which doesn't work well. Draw up slowly with my thumb. And then I'm going to be kind of careful here with my pipetting. I'm going to apply the solution buffer dead center to the column, not disturbing the column bed at all with the tip of my pipette. So you have to be careful and gentle at this stage. Ditch the tip, close the cap of the spin column, but not the receiving vessel, because of course it won't close. And then I would let this sit for 1 minute to allow the elution buffer, which is sort of a small volume, to percolate out across the top of the spin filter packing material and just start to descend into the packing material. This is a very watery buffer, and the DNA is going to prefer to be in the buffer rather than attached to the silica gel. So at this stage, we're getting the DNA off the silica gel and into the buffer. The way that we're going to force that movement to happen, you guessed it, we're going to centrifuge again for 1 minute at 10,000 G. Works well for this. So that's what I'm going to do next.